So tonight is actually viewer appreciation night. So one of the things that's been asked in the past is a painting of Elektra. So we're going to go into the painting that I did of Elektra. So to defend myself during this episode is I've got my paintbrushes to defend myself against her sai swords. We'll see if that works. I don't think so. But with that, let's start with a quote that we got in a comment from one of our viewers. So I'm going to get rid of those. So this came in from someone yesterday, actually, and they say, in a time of AI, it is so refreshing to see people talk about their art and the intentions behind it. So I thought that was really nice because that's what we do here. We talk about our art, we talk about what inspires us to do the art, the comic books, the love of the comic books, and trying to understand the human psychology of the characters that are in the comic books. So that's really cool. The other thing I'll mention here is I've got my little bandana thing on in honor of Elektra. You'll see this here. This is a omnibus that I read for this episode. It is from Frank Miller, who created Elektra. I highly recommend it. It's a pretty nice little synopsis on Elektra and such. So I checked that out. All right, and I'll leave that back here. So let's talk about Elektra. So Elektra first started out in Daredevil. She's basically from Matt Murdock's past. So Matt Murdock is Daredevil, okay? And Matt, at the age of 15, was actually hit in the face while trying to push and save a older gentleman from an oncoming vehicle. And he actually was successful, so that's great. But in the process, he was hit with radioactive material that went across and hit his eyes. So he saved a man's life, but he ended up through being hit with the radioactive material is he got really heightened senses, and so he can hear heartbeats. He can identify um, people with their scent, and he has basically he has radar senses, and he has awareness of pretty much everything around him. So that's how he was able to move around and not be able to see. So that's pretty cool. So he is a student at Columbia Law School in New York, and Elektra is there with her father, Hugo, and they're from Greece. And they're going around the campus and everything else, and they have this moment where they meet each other, and it's this, really cool meeting. But at first, Elektra kind of pushes him off because she's like, well, this guy's blind, and maybe she wasn't very interested in whatever. So, but he pursues her, and eventually they fall in love, and they have this nice romantic connection, a very deep connection, and they truly love each other. And so that's, I don't know, it was just a really good relationship. So later in episodes, Hugo is involved in a hostage terrorist crisis situation, and he's shot. And so Elektra really kind of falls off the deep end at this point, and so she then decides to take revenge upon people, and so she goes to Asia and she learns martial arts and specifically ninjutsu and how to become a ninja warrior, basically. She's very good, and I'll show you some of her powers that she has that she's acquired from being involved with that. So she gets involved with a organization called the Hand, and they're pretty famous in Marvel Comics. And anyways, so she learns out when she's in Paris that the Hand has plans to kill Matt Murdock, the Daredevil, in New York. So she flies from Paris to New York to save Matt's life. She's successful in that whole thing. Now, when she gets there and Matt learns more about Elektra and what she's done, he's not very happy because he is fighting crime in New York City, and he definitely does not like a terrorist, a mercenary for hire, who's an assassin, right, like Elektra. So even though he loves her deep down, that's not very a good thing for him and his, I don't know what he thinks as far as people should be. So there was a guy who was working for a mob boss that was in New York. His name was Bullseye, and he's very famous in Marvel Comics. And unfortunately, Bullseye has been put away and imprisoned. And so what happens is he eventually gets out, and Bullseye's upset because Kingpin, who runs sort of the mob in New York, had him be his professional hit man. Well, Kingpin, while he was put away, hired Elektra to be the assassin, and so he doesn't want that. So Elektra and Bullseye, they actually get into a fight, and she's actually impaled by one of her side swords by Bullseye, and so she died. She's in a, there's a situation, there's a scene where she's crawling back to Matt's brownstone apartment in New York, and she literally dies bleeding out in his arms, and so Matt's totally torn up. They bury Elektra, and then the Hand comes up with this technology where they can revive people. So they want to exhume Elektra's body and bring her back to life so that Elektra can serve their purposes indefinitely. Well, what happens is Matt gets word of this, and he breaks up the ceremony, ritual, whatever, and saves Elektra from going into that eternity of, darkness. And so she then is rid of all of her evil intentions and, dark, angry thoughts and feelings from her father being assassinated. And so she's then free to live her life. So then she leaves New York and she pursues her own life. So when they said, "Hey, I want Elektra," first thing in my brain was I thought Jennifer Garner. Okay, everybody probably does based on what she has. Okay, so when I think Jennifer Garner, I think um, cheekbones. Okay, that to me is the uh, standout feature that Jennifer has. Also, her eye shape. Um, those eye shapes, I think of her when I think of Jennifer Garner, and I think about her cheekbones. So, and then obviously the dark hair. It's longer hair, and then the actual bangs themselves. It's not just like a straight across bangs, but she does have some sort of cut, layers and stuff. She has some layering here. I'm not a hairstylist, but that's what I see. So, anyways, so she has that, and wanted to show a little bit of the ear, and I also wanted to get a little bit of the nose, but the nose is the nose. Although those are very difficult to paint. So going back to the eyes, eyes. What you want to do when you're studying, when you're doing eyes, is you want basically the about the distance of an eye in between. Hers are about that, and then her face is sort of this structure. This her lips and her mouth and stuff. She's got a slightly bigger lower lip there, and that's about it for that. So once you get that, then the rest of this is going to be easier. Okay. So let's move it on. All right. So because she's a ninja warrior, they use like these things apparently, and she's got all this stuff to like hold her sai sword. So I had to kind of learn that. I'm not a ninja warrior, as you guys probably could tell by the way I was holding my um, paintbrush, whatever. Okay. So I did. So we kind of figured that out, and then this is sort of the coloring that she has from her outfits usually, and the sai sword is a very important thing. This is what a sai sword looks like. And then she's obviously got another. That's her stance that she has. She has a look of like, I'm serious, and I'm gonna take you down in a heartbeat, and I'm ready for you kind of look. That's what I wanted to show. So there you go. through here, I guess, I don't know what you would call this, a girdle or something like that, or lower part of their outfit. It could just be, you could just have like this as a burgundy color, but I highly recommend, as I mentioned before, a Sharpie marker is your friend, buddy in painting. Sounds weird. So, it helps you accentuate this, okay, here. This whole area here is fine. What I did with her, I made it look like she had sort of like a little like a ring here for her navel, the area, and then I matched it, or belly button. I matched it with the sword, the little armband that she has, and then some of the metal pieces that she has here, and then a clasp, and then up to her um, earring, just to maintain continuity. Okay, because you got a lot of action that's happening here. Okay, and then I added a little belt buckle, and then instead of just having sort of like a very just a plain belt here. I added some stones here to kind of give a little bit of action. And then you'll see here how she's kind of like got a movement in her hip, like kind of like she's sort of at a pose in a way. Um, I was like this, and then she's like this, and then she's kind of at a pose, kind of like this, kind of like ready to jump, like that. So I want to show that look here with her leg. Now, you might be thinking, Ben, what's going on with all this movement and stuff? What I did here, so I wanted to kind of, for my interpretation of this, is I wanted to show sort of like in the background of like what you would have from like one of these things flying around at you. So I wanted to show some slashing kind of this direction, and then I wanted to show some slashing this way. And so like, it's coming down and then it's coming up and then it's coming across and it's coming down and up and whatever they do in martial arts and being a ninja ninjutsu person with the sai sword, however they fight, I wanted to try and show that, and then some darkness in the back to kind of give some continuity and background to the actual color that I had here with these. So that's her acrylic paints, just standard canvas, and it took me a couple days to do, and it was fun. Kind of had a character to model it off of. I think she's a very pretty person. I've always liked her. Seems like a very nice person, so it was pretty cool. And she did a great job in the movies. I kind of watched that, and for this, and then the book. Kind of this side of her. I'm glad she was able to turn it around. Matt Murdock helped her save her life and move on to a better life. So that was cool. So I am going to leave it at that. Try and keep this to a kind of a, I don't like to just ramble on, and I know that I do that sometimes. But there you go. That's it. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to be doing a paint by numbers kit together. So it's going to be one that I got based on the Hunger Games. So Jennifer Lawrence. So we have Jennifer and Jennifer. So it's pretty cool and it's a very dynamic one. So we're going to do that together so you can learn how I actually paint. With some certain kits and stuff like that, and you learn about acrylics and things like that. So I think that'll be kind of nice for you. And then I will unveil Stellara, which I'm very excited about, my new comic book character, and all the history and psychology and everything like that around her, in addition to the art. That's it. Like, subscribe, comment, tell me other characters that you would like to see painted, researched, talked about, layered into these stories, whatever it else. We need that. I need that feedback. And I appreciate the feedback that I got yesterday. It really helps me stay motivated and do this. So, with that, um, Elektra and Quickdraw say goodbye here, and we will check you out next episode. Thanks for watching.